This sort of pandemic earlier, well, earlier the biggest pandemic of this particular sort was Spanish flu into 1920. Later on, there were small epidemics like swine flu, Ebola, SARS. Last year, Nipah virus in Kerala, and we don't know whether encephalitis last year also comes in that particular category. But those were not of a nature of pandemic. But this COVID-19 is a very fast spreading pandemic, as ferocious as Spanish flu. We need to find out what are the similarities and differences between these two. Now, similarities are very much evident. Number one, there was no medicine for Spanish flu. There is no medicine for coronavirus. That is a novel coronavirus. Then there was no vaccine for Spanish flu. There is no vaccine for coronavirus also. And then the only available tools for combating the pandemic were sanitation, that is use of face masks, then hand washing, then social distancing, then lockout, and all these. And that was used in Spanish flu. We are using that today also. Then the question arises: there was no third remedy at that particular point of time. And today also we are being told that it is only these sanitation measures that will save us. Nothing more is available right now. The things will change only when the vaccine comes. Now the question comes is, has science not added anything between 1920 and 2020? Right now, it appears from whatever WHO is saying, whatever health agencies of every country, including ours, is saying, that before vaccine, nothing is available except for sanitation measures. It appears that all these people have reconciled that nothing is added by the science. But this is not true. Science has added several things, and science has added these things which should actually make whatever they have added as a first action step against pandemic, and the sanitation, etc., are necessary, but they should be second step, because they will be effective only if that first step is taken. The weaknesses of sanitation are there all for all to see. With all sorts of measures, the spread is not within our hand. Now, yesterday itself, more than a large number of patients have been added in India, and this pandemic started three months ago. The sanitation measures started 3 months ago. Then they should not have got infected. However, they have got infected, which means there are limitations to these measures. So we took a survey of whatever was added by the science between 1920 and 2020, and I will take you to that particular survey that we have. Well, science has taught us after 1920 that there is something what is called as immune system. And the earliest knowledge about immune system was that we have an adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity is what the vaccines use. That is, an antigen is introduced in our body, which is not a live pathogen, but it represents that pathogen, and our immune system develops antibodies against it. The antibodies can be can live lifelong, or maybe for a short time, and you have to get vaccinated again. But then this is what is adaptive immunity, which is known. Now, this adaptive immunity is something which is in the uppermost in the mind of WHO and our health agencies, that we should develop it very fast. And it is only after it comes that we have an absolute control on coronavirus. And now, this is absolutely true. There is nothing wrong in it. But there are limitations also. Now, we are presuming that coronavirus will not mutate. Suppose it mutates, and then it produces such a mutation that it is not useful for the vaccine that is being developed right now. Then you are again in a soup. Because coronavirus is changing its symptoms so fast. Within 3 months, the old symptoms have disappeared, new symptoms have come. We don't know what is the mechanism of it, but one explanation could be perhaps virus has mutated and has given a different strain. This strain might be useful for the vaccine that is being developed, but if it is not, then the current vaccine efforts are gone. And then after all, it will be limited only to this strain of coronavirus, not to next pandemic, or if something else comes, we'll have to start right again from first day on for developing the vaccine. So this is useful, certainly, but its limitations are very much clear. Now, there is another kind of immunity which science has come to know, and that is called as innate immunity, or it is also called as non-specific immunity, because adaptive immunity is specific for a strain, as I told you. This non-specific immunity is, let aside the strain, it is not specific for any virus, it is not specific for any microbial pathogen. It has a capability to detect any new pathogen that enters in body, or old pathogen that enters in body, infects a cell, and this particular innate immunity, which is available with us right from the day one of our birth, it has a capability to detect such infected cells and attach to such cells, inject highly toxic cytotoxic granules, and destroy it lock, stock and barrel with all the nucleic acid content of it also, which is not just a killing, but there is a specific word, a term for it in science, apoptosis. That is its destruction right from the root. And this is very important for innate immunity. And as you can imagine, that as long as this innate immunity is at the topmost level, whatever new virus comes, whatever new pathogen comes, and infects a person having this innate immunity at the topmost, he will never get proliferation of that infection in his body. It will that particular infected cell will be destroyed, and during that process, that particular pathogen is already exposed to the blood, so it triggers the adaptive immunity in the blood, and that person gets antibodies to that. Next time he gets infected, say after a few days, it is this adaptive immunity which takes care. Innate immunity doesn't have to do work. This innate immunity is mediated by certain kinds of cells which are called as natural killer cells. They are called as natural killer cells because their job is to detect and kill. They can detect what is self and non-self, which means infected cell is considered as non-self, and our cell is not attacked by it. On the top of it, a cancer cell is also detected as a non-self. Hence, whenever a cancer cell gets produced in our body, it is killed by these natural killer cells. It is only if such a cancer cell forms within the window of natural this natural killer cell activity goes down and then comes up. Within that window, that cancer cell then multiplies, it becomes a nodule, and then it again disguises itself. So natural killer cell activity is fundamental to our defense. And as you can imagine, that this should be the first tool for fighting against a pandemic. And I'm sure you haven't heard this at all so far until today. And of course, I won't blame those authorities who are not talking about this, because this is a knowledge that natural killer cell immunity will kill such things. However, how to then how to then the lower down activity, how to take it up, it is a know-how which is not so much evident for the world. And then we went through the literature. We pieced together at least 32 relevant references, of which I will select only a few. But that particular work has led to a product which will improve innate immunity for immune compromised people. Now, for those people who already have at the optimum level, those are blessed people. But there are people whose innate immunity has gone down, and it includes which sort of people? Number one is diabetic, hypertensive people. Number three is people who are aged 60 or 65 and above, and persons who are engaged in very hard working duties, like currently working COVID warriors, doctors, nurses, policemen, then people who are engaged in hospital as a staff, working 24 hours. So at the time of start of the pandemic, they might have their immunity at the top, but now it might have gone down, and we can see now they are also getting infected. So these are the people who are using personal protective equipments and also think they know how to use them, but they are also getting infected. Shows the limitations of the sanitation measures. So it is very important that this particular factor of innate immunity is addressed. Now, how did we address? How did we complete this particular requirement of know-how on handling this? And I will take you through that. One of these 32 references, which very specifically takes us to the food ingredient, which mediates innate immunity, and that is beta carotene. Let us see what he says. He says in 1999, the antioxidant properties of carotenoids are thought to be positive factor for the close association between diets rich in carotenoids and a reduced incidence of many forms of cancer. Hence, it is thought to have a potential role in preventing cancer. Further, he says that since and this is very important sentence, since the immune system plays a major role in prevention of cancer, and he has shown it is the beta carotene which does it, it has been suggested that beta carotene may enhance immune cell function. And this immune cell function is what I told you, to detect infected cells and destroy them, whatever be the pathogen, whether it is a novel or old one. And later on, his review article says, several human trials using dietary beta carotene supplementation with a wide range of intakes have been undertaken to address this hypothesis. The general conclusion of these studies is that this compound can enhance cell-mediated immune responses, particularly in elderly. Very important conclusion. This very clearly tells us that this is the beta carotene. But then question is, then you will say that crystalline beta carotene is available in the market. So let us take it and consume it. We get innate immunity. Well, but basically that is not correct. We have to take into account several other factors. And one factor is that Saman et al. Have shown that bioavailability of beta carotene was better and resulted in decrease in risk of cardiac heart disease. When instead of isolated crystalline beta carotene, the same was provided through a mixed fruit and vegetable dehydrated juice. The message is clear that isolated crystalline beta carotene is not effective to that extent. its bioavailability is very much poor. And if we go through the literature, they have used something like 8 milligram to 50 milligram of for beta carotene for getting an effect of innate immunity boosting in elderly people. Now, 8 to 50 milligram of beta carotene is a very, very, very high consumption of beta carotene, considering the fact that, for example, tomato has about 500 microgram of it in 100 gram. 500 microgram is half a gram. And this is to be divided by 56 for their bioavailability, and that is what we get. And that is why we have to take natural sources to get the same effect in smaller dose. But here also someone has used 12 milligram per day because he has used dehydrated juice. And now I will come to an evidence where we have to know exactly how much of beta carotene from natural sources gives innate immunity. And there is one randomized crossover study done in 2005 by Chen et al., which shows that 200 gram of purple sweet potato leaves fed for some 20 days gave the improvement in activity of natural killer cells. So now we have to zero in on how much is the beta carotene in 200 gram purple sweet potato leaves. That is not given by Chen et al., but there are other reports of beta carotene content of sweet potato leaves, and that then boils down that considering a factor of 58 is to 1 for beta carotene through the leaves to bioavailable beta carotene, 200 grams of purple sweet potato leaves will provide 79 microgram or say 80 microgram of beta carotene. So that is the dose which should be given per day of 100% bioavailable beta carotene for improving activity of natural killer cells. So now we have come up to that particular point. Then the further question is, you can't go on eating 200 grams of sweet potato leaves per day. So you have to extract it from sources of beta carotene, and beta carotene sources are very dilute from very big quantity of from very big quantity of raw material. You have to extract it in a small quantity of a dose of which contains 80 microgram, and this has been made possible by us by extracting it in oil. Whatever is extracted is oil is 100% bioavailable, because whatever is released in intestine, when it dissolves in fat micelles, then it is absorbed. So if you provide it in already dissolved in oil, it goes to show that it is 100% bioavailable, and we have done it. The Lee immune, which I said, from green leafy vegetable we released in 2014. It is this particular strip. To four softgels of this would form one dose, one daily dose, which will provide much more than 80 micrograms per day. And then in March, we realized that that is the end of green leafy vegetable season. So if we are to use our knowledge and give an immune booster to the people, then we have no alternative but to wait for coming October. So then we experimented with tomato, carrot, and such beta carotene sources. And we concentrated, we got their extract in least quantity of edible oil. So this is the, we have named it as Lee Immune Tomato or Lee Immune Tea. to distinguish from earlier immune product. And 4 milliliters of this particular product will give a daily dose of 250 milligram, 250 microgram of beta carotene. Now you will say that the dose required is 80 and we are giving 250. That we are doing intentionally because 250 could be considered as a booster one. Because for those who are immune compromised, their immunity should come up very fast. So use this particular composition for some time. Then switch over to 100 microgram per day, and that will be considered as maintenance dose for all the lifetime to come. Now, why I am saying for all the lifetime to come? Why shouldn't it end at COVID-19's end? Because the sequence of next pandemics is not foreseen. Secondly, now it has gone into the head of some countries as well as terrorists that this is a very good biological weapon, very least cost and very highest damage. So every nation has got to be prepared for every citizen to have the innate immunity at the highest level for all the time to come, foreseeable time. And immune compromised people can be helped only with help of beta carotene, and this is the product which is available now. So presuming that a new virus comes which is even faster than COVID, then you will have no time to produce the doses in very large quantity and distribute. So you have to be prepared for every day to come. And this particular process and product has been patented by us because we want to prevent its black marketing. It is only when you have a patent that you can control who produces it, sells at what cost, and all this. So now it is open for questions if you have any. And thank you very much.
I think this is a very good product we have developed, and really it addresses to the suffering the people are going through. And I hope it should reach to the people in the shortest possible time so that they will get a benefit of this. Thank you.